All right, let's do an attunement for the superficial front line. Now, the thing you need to understand about the superficial front line is how important it is to balance it with the superficial back line. And you're going to hear some cues in this little experience you're about to have, which is not a yoga sequence, it's not a yoga practice, it's an attunement. So it's all about feeling and exploring, but you're going to hear some cues that will really revolutionize the way you practice yoga and the way you do other movement practices, especially where you need to do things like keep your heart lifted and your crown lifted and keep a really upright posture, because the front line will help the back line in maintaining this uprightness in your posture that we all wanted to achieve. So have fun exploring the superficial front fascial line. And if you learn something new, leave it in the comments below. All right, so we're going to begin our practice with a little bit of Tadasana leaning again, so you can feel into the superficial front line from that aspect. So let's just begin in Tadasana with great toes pointing straight ahead, heels a little wider, your feet can be together or apart. Unlock your knees, feel your sliding surfaces here. And then press down into your feet, energize your legs like you're dialing the feet and knees away from each other. This will create some toning in the thighs and the seat. And now, again, you're letting your deep front line come online from arches of the feet, up the inseams of your legs to pelvic floor and lower belly, and on up the center of the body. So with eyes closed, let's now, once again, just feel the very center of the body. It's good to have that awareness of where you are in the ultimate balanced position, where really there's no muscular effort to hold you there. You have activated your fascial lines, but other than that, there's really no effort that has to hold you there. And now we're going to move into a forward lean. So you're going to just, with eyes closed, slowly explore, just keeping super straight through the crown of the head. You're just leaning forward like a ski jumper, from the ankles, keeping the heart lifted, the crown lifted, and just leaning into that front body, letting it kind of come online, if you will, a little more strongly. And then we can move back into that centered spot. And then once again, let's just shift forward right from the ankle, knee, hip, heart, crown. Just lean into that and just feel what's coming online. And then we're going to shift back and go back into that perfect balanced position in the center. It's perfect because it's not that it's a particular kind of alignment, but it's perfect because it requires no muscular effort, so there's obviously balance in line with gravity. All right, so now we're going to start challenging that balanced position. So inhale, take your arms up. All of us will raise the arms above the head. Now, with arms just remaining above the head, notice what may have changed in the front body. So can you sense where your ribs are now? Are they at the same point they were when you raised your arms? Let's just see. So let's take the arms down. Feel the front body once again. This time especially, you have your legs turned on. Now feel from your pubic bone to the lower ribs, to the front of the chest, and deep onto the rib cage. Chin stays tucked. All right, so just feel that connection, and now inhale, raise arms up. So can you maintain that front body integrity? It's not so much about like you can't let anything change or it's got to be really rigidly held, but oftentimes we will have a habit of allowing extra extension in the back. So I'm just going to spin you. And so just lean back a little extra for me. So oftentimes this is a very typical place where we're going to get a little bit overextension here, and the lower ribs might pop forward. So this is just a very typical thing. And it's not that we want to avoid that entirely. It's okay for that, but as long as we're active through the front body, as long as we're active from the pubic bone up the front body, so that we know how to tap into that superficial front line for stability. Okay, great. Let's take the arms down. And so there'll be a couple more postures where we can feel like, are we staying connected or is that collapsing altogether? All right, let's take a nice deep breath to the sides and overhead. Arms go to the sides and overhead. And then you can exhale and fold forward. Inhale, come up to half lift. And exhale, hands to the mat. Step your feet back to downward facing dog. All right, so in downward facing dog, the superficial front line behaves as though it's two different lines. Okay, so you've got the line that's coming up the tops of the feet, knee joint, and ending on the pelvic bone here. So you can feel into that line here. And over time, once your heels start to drop down a little bit more, you can start to draw your toes toward your knee. And that's going to activate the front line of the legs. Even with the knees ever so slightly bent, you can energize the toes toward the knees. So that's one way of tapping into that line a little bit more. But in downward facing dog, this is a good place to feel where you have stabilized the pelvis. And the pelvis is pretty stable here. So that means that you can start to draw on that stable base to pubic bone and start to elongate this line. So you want to tension the line by creating length in it. So keeping the pelvis nice and stable, remember this line wraps around the back of the head. So the chin will be slightly tucked, and if you reach through the crown, you're going to create a little bit more of a lengthening sensation around here. So again, this is not about stretching the line. This is just about finding like the tensioning of the line, again, just in order to sense the stability that it creates in the body. All right, let's bring the knees down. And we'll go into a few cat-cows. So you can balance your shoulders over your wrists. And let's take an inhale, sending the crown upward, the tail upward, the belly downward. Good. And then exhale. So when we exhale, we're gathering that line from the pubic bone to the neck and the back of the head. Inhale, take it in the other direction. And now we're elongating the line. So if we take the head back a whole lot here, you guys can continue, but I'm going to keep Sue-Ann hostage here. If she bends it back a little too much and compresses these suboccipitals, she actually also loses a little bit of the tension on that line. So we don't want to quite do that. So again, you see where dropping the head all the way back kind of takes the tension out of the line, which is not necessarily what we want to do. All right, let's just go ahead and go in the other direction again. Good. All right, let's hold this position for a moment. So here again, we want to tuck the chin so that we're really creating length here at the back of the neck. And again, this is so beneficial to take some postures where we actually really open this up. In our lifestyle with kind of a head forward posture that so many people find themselves in, this gets a lot of compression. So it's good to really try to relieve that in the practice if you can. Okay, let's come back into just a regular table pose, reaching through crown and tail. And let's tuck our toes and go back into downward facing dog. Beautiful. So now let's look between the hands, and you'll stand on your left foot, send your right foot between your hands. Keep the core engaged, yep. And let the knee come down, so left knee can come down. Keep your toes tucked if that's okay. And feel free to pad your knee if you need to, or fold your mat if you need to. All right, press straight down into your right foot, and let's bring the body up. Hands can come onto the hips. So keeping your back knee down, yep. So just for now, so we're gonna keep the back toes tucked under. So we're gonna activate the superficial front line on the back leg. All right, when you're tucking your toes, energize like you're pulling your toes towards your knee. You actually want to see something's happening actually in the skin. So it's this, you know, an activation here. So if you turn that on, it's like you're really actively pulling your toes towards your knee. You're going to feel tensioning of this line. And then when you're ready, you can lift your arms, but also from pubic bone, you're engaging the superficial front line. So this is where it starts to act as one piece. Because it's strongly connected,
And that connection overlaps a little bit. So from pubic bone to AIIS, the overlap is about this much. And so she's activating this line, activating up. So the line is kind of being tensioned in this way. So this creates a great deal of stability, and here's how we'll be able to see that. Keep energizing like you're pulling your toes towards your knee, energize that line, press straight down into your right foot, and now we can lift that back knee up. So press and lift, and you'll usually remain really steady, okay? So you can put the back knee down again if you want. Hands can come back down to the mat. Inhale, lift the back knee, and exhale, step your foot back to downward facing dog. Good. Stand on your right foot, send your left foot forward. All right, so you can bring your back knee down, push down into your left foot, take your hands to your hips, tuck your right toes towards your right knee, super actively. All right, and now this time we'll go up and down a couple of times. So keeping the back toes tucked, energizing like you're pulling your toes towards your knee. Let's come up, bring the knee up. Yep. And then bring it back down. Just touch it down. Keep energizing the front. One more time. Let's come up. Great. And bring it down. This time you can stay down. Keep drawing the leg in. Hands come up. And now start to tap into the connection from the pubic bone up the front side and around the back of the head. In fact, this time let's lace the fingers together. Bring the hands to the back of the head and press your head. So where your hands end up, just at the back of your head here, is pretty much where that line is coming around the back of the head. So if you make the connection between head and hands here, energize up from the pubic bone, you're making a really strong connection with that superficial front line. And you're probably feeling the stability and strength of that line. Let's release the fingers. We'll bring the hands back to the mat. And let's step back for downward facing dog. And just pedal it out a little bit. Beautiful. All right, so let's take another version of a lunge, another very low lunge. So stand on your left foot, right foot is going to come forward. Let's keep on tented fingers this time. And untuck the back toes, let your knee come down. Knee down, untuck the toes. Okay. So now let's press down into the top surface. You're going to be up a little bit higher. Press down into the top surface of that back foot, especially into the great toe side of the foot. So that's important. And now energize as though you're dragging that foot forward. So that's going to strongly activate your superficial front line right up to the pelvis. So keep pressing straight down here and energizing like you're dragging that leg forward. And then you might find, if it's okay in your body, if you do not have patellar tracking problems at the knee or other knee injuries, then you could press down, energize like you're dragging the legs forward, and then lift the knee away from the mat so that the knee would straighten. So if that's able to happen, it's because the knee is in good condition. And then you might find that you could bring the arms up. So again, this is really, really strong posture. If you haven't done it before, you have to work your way up to it. Okay, and when you're ready, you can bring the hands back down. But this is really nice activation for the superficial front line. It's very strengthening for the ankle as well. All right, let's step back to downward facing dog once again. And then we can step forward with the other foot. So standing on your right foot, left foot comes forward. Very nice. Untuck the toes, stay on tented fingers, or you can use hands on a block would be a great option as well. Press straight down into the top surface of your back foot. And then energize as though you're going to drag your foot forward. I see when you're, that's good. Okay, like you're dragging your leg forward, pull that energy up into the belly, and then from pubic bone through heart, stretch your body forward, keep pressing down to rise. Yes, good. Very nice. One more big deep breath here. Again, please be careful if you haven't done this before. It's pretty strong. And whenever you're ready, you can bring the hands back down. Good, soften the knee down. And then go ahead and step back for downward facing dog. All right, this is a really strong activation. So make sure if you've had knee injuries, you can activate exactly the same way, but keep the knee on the mat. Okay, lift the knee if it feels good. It's very good in strengthening. It's actually really beneficial for the knee joint capsule and for the ankle. But again, you have to modify if you've had previous injuries. All right, let's now walk, step, or hop to the front of your mat. Lengthen your spine as you arrive here. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, let's come all the way up. Beautiful. Hands will come into heart center. Soften the knees. And let's practice the transition here. Step into your right foot a little bit more strongly. So right foot is weighted. Weight comes off the left foot. And then step it back. Keeping toes tucked under. All right, so this is kind of a balancing warrior posture. Our front foot is organized and activated, so great toe is pressing down and we're energizing the knee to press outward, lifting the arch of the foot. It's really good. And then in the back foot, we're going to start working with the great toe a little bit more. So really press into the great toe. And then you can decide if you're letting the back knee bend or not. If you find that it makes your pelvis spill forward a lot to have the knee straight, then just bend it a little bit so that the spine can be in a better position. So again, here, this is a very strong activation already of the superficial front line on the back leg. Now we're going to feel into our connection from pubic bone up through heart. So again, tap into that as you raise arms up. And again, you can choose, hands can come to the back of the head. This will give you a really strong experience of that line. But you can feel how that prevents you from collapsing forward. This is really easy place for the spine to go into extra extension. And this is exactly where we want to be able to maintain some integrity. From pubic bone to those lower ribs, relationship to heart, relationship through crown of head, and this relationship to the back of the head that you're feeling into. So good. Let's release the hands. Just maybe take them to heart or hips. Lean into your front foot and step to the front of the mat. Very nice. Okay, so that was a really nice transition. So transitions, I feel, are very, very important. So let's try that on the other side. Bending into your knees, shifting your weight into your left foot, staying organized and activated, releasing the right foot to step back. Stepping back with toes tucked under. Pulling toe toward knee, activating the front line, and then you can press down into your great toe as well. And then start to make that connection from pubic bone up the front side of the body, round the back of the head. If you want an even stronger experience of that, you can either raise arms up or take hands to the back of the head. I recommend playing with both of those variations just to explore the difference in sensation. Okay, so when we want to tap into a line like the superficial front line for stability, we want to think of gathering that. We're tensioning that line. So we're not trying to stretch it, we're trying to pull it all together. And part of what we're doing is just learning the sensation of that line, following the sensation. So up the front side of that back leg, from the pubic bone up the front side and around the back head of the body. That, once you sense into it, you'll be able to apply that to lots of other practices and postures. Let's release the hands. We're going to take the hands back to the heart or the hips. Lean into your front legs, stay connected, and step forward. So good. Let's inhale the arms to the sides and overhead. Exhale all the way forward and down. Inhale, let's take a half lift. And even here, let's just remain in half lift for just a moment and feeling the hips pressing back, and then the pubic bone is stable. We're stretching the heart forward from here with chin just a little bit tucked, reaching through crown, and then exhale, fold. And you can step your feet back to upper push-up position. So we'll just practice a plank pose that is a little bit like plank pose extra or hollow body position. So as we press down into the hands, energize like you're dialing them away from each other. Again, so you can activate a hand to core connection. And then we have our feet active, so pulling toes toward the knees and activating the fronts of the legs, activating from pubic bone up the front side of the body. And now we're going to energize upward a little bit into a hollow body shape. So you're actually lifting the low back a little bit. So lift into my hand and pull up into it. Yes. All right, so keep energizing the fronts of the legs, fronts of the trunk, and pull into that. Good, let's take one more breath there. And then if you like, you can go into side plank from here. And that would be keeping left hand down, right hand will come up. So that was great. You can choose to step your right foot down or bring your left knee down. But if you're moving from that hollow body position, you're entering it from a very organized place. All right, let's bring the hand down. That was really nicely done. You guys didn't know that was coming. And pull up into your hollow body shape once again. Create that connection. And now rocking onto the other side. Yes. Draw the front body in. Activate. So good. One more breath. And then exhale the hand to come down. Really nice. Nice deep breath here. And then let's bring knees down. Keep the heart reaching forward as you bring the belly down too. Yeah, all the way down. Great. Let's just take a moment here. You can put forehead on stacked hands. And take a nice deep breath here. Good. When you're next ready, you're going to just bring the elbows under the shoulders and the palms out in front of you. So not hands, yeah, elbows under the shoulders. So come up, yep, into sort of Sphinx pose there. Yeah, so elbows right under the shoulders, there we go. So keep pressing into the tops of your feet. Remember, the tops of your feet are part of your superficial front line. So you can activate the foot downward, root into your pubic bone, and remember your pubic bone is the stable base for the superficial front line, the upper half of it. So keep rooting there. Now, see if you can draw your belly up and away from the mat a little bit. So for some people, this will actually bring the pelvis into a posterior tilt, which is fine. But for some people, the pelvis is so, you know, its default is so anteriorly tilted that it may just actually bring them into neutral. So that is possible. But either way, it's preferable for what we're trying to do here. So we're trying to just draw the navel up and away from the mat, feel that stable pubic bone, and now stretch your heart forward. And the reason we're doing this is we're trying to get balance between the superficial front line and the superficial back line. Superficial back line is going to allow this to come forward, especially if we have a lot of tension in the superficial front line. So we need to let this lengthen up away from the pubic bone, actually pull up from the pubic bone in posture, and get a little extra strength in the upper back at the same time. So great. So from here, you can relax that just ever so slightly now. Very nice. Holding to fatigue, right, is very good. But now let's take the left forearm and bring it across the short side of the mat. So just fold it in. And then you can bend your right knee, reach around and catch hold of instep or ankle. Great. Gently bring the heel toward the seat. Just gently. We don't have to get to any end point in particular there. Hug the front side of your hip into the mat, the hip crease itself, hug it down. And then start pushing your foot into your hand. So we're priming the fascia here. We're tensioning the fascia. This is creating a bit more sensitivity, also awakening the structures that are all part of that fascial line. And you can release, very nice. Slide the right forearm along the short side of the mat, reach around and catch hold of left instep or ankle. Bring the heel close toward the seat, but this is very gentle. No, we're not being aggressive here. Open up the front side of the hip next, press it down, and then finally push the foot into your hand. Push, push, push. Keep lifting the belly a little bit from the mat. Very nice, and let's release. Good. You can just rest for a moment, forehead on stacked hands or forehead on your forearms, whatever works best. Just take a nice deep breath here. Good. And then we're going to bend both knees. Reach around and catch hold of insteps or ankles with your hands. Root down into your pubic bone. Energize the belly. And inhale, lift the chest. Draw your shoulders back. Reach through the crown of the head. And then push your feet into your hands. Really nice. So where it might be helpful for somebody in this posture would be right around the sacrum so that the pubic bone stays rooted, and then they can work with either direction that that line is moving in. Pushing feet into the hands, and last breath. Let's take it down and relax. Beautiful. Now let's go into child's pose. Just taking all the tension out of the line and just resting into child's pose for a moment. Beautiful. Okay, let's come up from child's pose and fold the front of your mat. And then your knees will go on the fold. And the feet, the femurs can be parallel to each other, so we don't want them really close together. We'll just separate them a little bit. Toes can gravitate towards each other a little bit. Hands on the hips. So once again, we want to press down into the top surface of the feet really actively. Okay, and then start to shift your hips forward. So this is going to tension the line. We're doing that kind of forward lean with the hips. Keep pressing into the tops of the feet. And now feel from the pubic bone. Feel the pubic bone, and then start to lift and lengthen from the pubic bone. At the same time, you can wrap your arms around to the back side of the pelvis and just keep lengthening up from the pubic bone, maybe tracing your gaze along the ceiling and just feeling the relationship from the pubic bone right around the back of the head. So again, in order to tap into the stability of that line, we want to keep gathering into it. And so you can explore leaning back as much as you like, but we're not necessarily going all the way into camel. All right, so you can tuck your chin and come out of that for a moment. You can just sit back over your hips. Usually I would do 2 rounds of camel pose because usually the first round is very sensitizing. It's a good priming. And then you might find that the body is already a little more receptive to that posture in the second round. It's hard to believe. You kind of have to go, you have to try it to believe it. Just the idea is, I wonder. All right, so let's just prove it and go again. You guys are going to be doing it with smiles on your faces this time, I bet. All right, so press into the top surfaces of your feet. Shift your hips forward so that you can actually feel some tensioning over the thighs, over the quadriceps. And now feel from your pubic bone. Intend from your pubic bone to start lengthening up and away, pulling upward on that pubic bone as you start to lean back. You can use your eyes. Your spine is wired to follow your eye position. Hands wrap around the back, and just keep lifting up and out. So real full front body line is going to be really an upward lift and then coming back. Very nice. Let's tuck the chin and come back and down. You can sit back over your heels, hands cupping the knees, and tuck your chin, just round your spine backwards as much as possible. And take a nice deep breath. Very nice. So one more really yummy posture. We're going to unfold the mat. And then you can go through downward facing dog. Downward facing dog. You can hop forward now. And stretch your legs out ahead of you into seated. All right, so from here, we will lean back. So you're gonna just lean back. You'll notice as soon as you lean back, you're gonna start turning on the anterior musculature. So hands will come here. All right, so feet together. This is phase one, just leaning back. Staying energized from pubic bone up around the back of the head. One more breath here. And then let's come down. Okay. Hands can remain together in front of you. Energizing the belly. So now imagine we were on the mat, remember, lying on our belly and pulling the belly away from the mat. Now we're going to do the same thing we just did there. It's as though we were, flipped over. So now pull up on the pubic bone, pull the pubic bone towards your breastbone, pull the navel towards your spine, and then lift the legs. And possibly lift the shoulders. Okay, so let's do that again just so you guys get the activation pattern there, okay? So first thing is to pull pubic bone toward breastbone, pull it in, so that's posteriorly tilting your pelvis. Pull navel towards spine. This is going to allow you to lift your legs, and then you can lift the head. And just 5 more minutes here. And let's bring the feet down, bring the head down. Arms can reach above the head. Let's pull the knees in and rock the body from side to side. That was an experience, hey? Such good sports. All right, now let's grasp the feet for happy baby pose. Feet come together. And you can just step 1 foot at a time down. Just step 1 foot, then the other, just beyond your sitting bones. And then nice and lazy-like, let your right knee drop out, slide the foot toward the right corner of your mat, let your left knee drop out, slide the left foot toward the front corner of your mat. Beautiful. Arms above your head. Point your toes if you're able, if it doesn't make your feet want to cramp, and reach with your palms. So imagine you're pressing the back of your hands into the floor, or actually do it if you have a good connection there. Feel the whole front body, pull the belly in a little bit here. Press the back of your head into the mat for a moment. 1 more breath. And then exhale and just allow everything to soften. You can bring your arms down by your sides if you like for a Shavasana. And just start allowing the breath to soften. So good idea to take a little Shavasana now. And that's the end of our superficial frontline practice. And just a few experiences for you to tap into the tension of that line and to see how you can use that in various postures. So hopefully that was illuminating for you. Thanks for being here, and I will see you on the next sequence.